The glass towers of Meridian Corporation gleamed against Seoul's skyline as CEO Park Jin-woo surveyed his empire from the 42nd floor. His reflection stared back, sharp suit, colder eyes, a man who had built everything from nothing and trusted no one in the process. "Sir, the termination letters are ready," his assistant announced, placing a thick folder on the mahogany desk. Jin-woo's jaw tightened. The quarterly reports painted a grim picture. Despite record profits, someone had been embezzling funds for months. His investigation had yielded nothing but dead ends and suspicious glances from employees who once seemed loyal. "All of them?" he asked, though his mind was already made. "Yes, sir. Every employee in the accounting and administrative departments. 73 people total." The decision felt like swallowing glass, but betrayal had taught him harsh lessons. His father's business partner had stolen everything when Jin-woo was 12, leaving his family bankrupt and broken. Never again would he allow trust to become his weakness. "Execute it immediately." As security escorted bewildered employees from the building, Jin-woo watched from his window. Tears, angry shouts, desperate pleas, he forced himself to witness every moment. This was the price of survival in a world where loyalty was a luxury he couldn't afford. By evening, the offices stood eerily quiet. 73 lives disrupted, 73 families affected. But somewhere among them was a thief who had stolen not just money, but his faith in humanity. Jin-woo loosened his tie, the weight of leadership pressing down like lead. Tomorrow, he would rebuild with new faces, new contracts, new walls around his heart. He had no idea that one person remained, someone who would change everything. The cleaning crew had finished hours ago, leaving Meridian Corporation's halls in pristine silence. Jin-woo worked late, as always, when he noticed a soft glow emanating from the accounting department. His security team had confirmed the building was empty. Suspicious, he approached the source of light. Through the glass partition, he saw her, a young woman with gentle features, heavily pregnant, sitting at a desk surrounded by scattered papers. She moved carefully, one hand supporting her lower back as she organized files with methodical precision. "Excuse me," Jin-woo's voice cut through the silence. She looked up, startled, her doe-like eyes wide with surprise. "Mr. Park, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize you were still here. Who are you? How did you get past security?" "I'm Lee So-young from accounting. I was in the hospital this morning for a checkup when—" She gestured helplessly at the empty desks around her. "I came back to find everyone gone." Jin-woo studied her face, searching for deception, but her expression held only confusion and quiet dignity. "You weren't terminated because you weren't here." "I understand if you want me to leave too," she said softly, struggling to stand. "I just wanted to finish organizing the quarterly reconciliations. The files were left in such disarray." Something in her tone gave him pause. While others had pleaded or raged, she simply accepted her fate with grace. "What were you doing?" "Trying to trace the discrepancies in the accounts. I've been working on it for weeks during my spare time." Jin-woo's pulse quickened. "Show me." As So-young carefully explained her findings, pointing to patterns others had missed, Jin-woo realized he might have just found either his salvation or his greatest mistake. So-young's delicate fingers traced across spreadsheets with surprising expertise. "The irregularities started 6 months ago," she explained, her voice steady despite her obvious exhaustion. "Small amounts at first, but they've been increasing." Jin-woo leaned closer, catching the faint scent of jasmine in her hair. "Why didn't you report this?" "I tried," she said quietly, "but Mr. Choi said I was mistaken, that I should focus on my regular duties instead of causing trouble." Choi, his former accounting director, a man Jin-woo had trusted implicitly. The pieces began forming a disturbing picture. "You're certain about these calculations?" So Young nodded, then winced slightly, placing a protective hand over her rounded belly. "The baby's been active today," she murmured apologetically. "When are you due?" 6 weeks. Her cheeks flushed pink. "I know it's not ideal timing with everything that's happened." Jinwoo found himself studying her profile. The determined set of her jaw despite her vulnerability. The way she prioritized work, even in her condition. "Where's your husband?" The question hung in the air like a blade. So Young's composure faltered for just a moment. "There isn't one," she whispered. The admission hit Jinwoo unexpectedly. Here was a woman facing single motherhood, job insecurity, and yet she'd spent her evening trying to solve his company's problems without any guarantee of recognition or reward. "Why?" he asked, then immediately regretted the personal question. "Because it was the right thing to do," she replied simply. In that moment, Jinwoo realized he was looking at something he'd forgotten existed: genuine integrity. The question was whether he could still recognize it, or if his cynicism had blinded him completely. "You'll work directly for me," Jinwoo announced the next morning, his decision made during a sleepless night of reviewing So Young's meticulous work. So Young looked up from her temporary desk, confusion evident in her tired eyes. "Sir? I'm restructuring the entire financial department. I need someone I can trust to oversee the transition." The words felt foreign on his tongue. Trust wasn't something he offered lightly anymore. "But I'm just a junior accountant and I'm—" She gestured to her pregnancy. "You're the only person who tried to protect my company when everyone else either stole from it or turned a blind eye." Jinwoo's voice carried a weight that made her look up sharply. "The question is whether you're willing to take on the responsibility." So Young was quiet for a long moment, her hands resting protectively over her belly. "What about after the baby comes?" "We'll figure it out." The answer surprised him as much as her. When had he become someone who figured things out, instead of demanding rigid compliance? "Why are you doing this?" she asked softly. Jinwoo considered the question. "Because you're honest. Because you stayed when everyone else ran. Because you remind me that not everyone has an agenda." "Because you earned it," he said instead. So Young's eyes glistened with unshed tears. "I won't let you down, Mr. Park." As she carefully stood to shake his hand, Jinwoo felt something shift in his chest, a crack in the armor he'd spent years perfecting. He told himself it was simply good business sense, but the gentle warmth of her smile suggested otherwise. For the first time in years, Park Jinwoo wondered if he'd been wrong about more than just his employees. 3 weeks into their new arrangement, Jinwoo found himself looking forward to his daily briefings with So Young. She had an uncanny ability to distill complex financial data into clear, actionable insights, all while maintaining a calm demeanor that somehow soothed his perpetual tension. "The forensic audit confirmed your suspicions about Mr. Choi," she reported, settling carefully into the chair across from his desk. "He's been systematically diverting funds through shell companies for 8 months. Jinwoo's jaw clenched. "How much?" "Approximately 2 billion won." The number hit like a physical blow. Not just the money, but the betrayal. Choi had been his father's friend, someone Jinwoo had considered family. "Sir?" So Young's gentle voice pulled him from his dark thoughts. "Are you all right?" He looked up to find her watching him with genuine concern, not the calculating sympathy he was accustomed to from subordinates seeking advantage. "I trusted him," Jinwoo admitted, the words escaping before he could stop them. "Trust isn't a weakness," she said quietly. "It's what makes us human. It's what makes us vulnerable." So Young shifted uncomfortably, one hand supporting her back. "Maybe. But without it, what's the point of any of this?" She gestured around his opulent office. "Success without connection is just lonely." The observation struck deeper than intended. When had he last shared a meal with someone who wasn't trying to sell him something? When had he last laughed without calculating the social benefit? "You should go home," he said, noticing her fatigue. "You've been working too hard." "I'm fine." That wasn't a request. But his tone held no harshness, only concern that surprised them both. As So Young gathered her things, Jinwoo realized she was becoming more than an employee. She was becoming dangerous to his carefully constructed walls. The emergency call came at 2 a.m. Jinwoo's phone buzzed insistently until he answered with a groggy curse. "Mr. Park?" So Young's voice was strained, barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry to bother you, but I'm at Seoul National Hospital. Something's wrong with the baby." Jinwoo was out of bed before she finished speaking. "I'm coming. You don't need to." "I'm coming." The hospital's sterile corridors felt endless as he searched for her room. When he finally found her, So Young looked impossibly small in the hospital bed, monitors beeping softly around her. "The doctor says it's just stress," she said when she saw him, attempting a reassuring smile. "Bed rest for a few days." Jinwoo pulled a chair close to her bed, his usual composure cracking. "You should have called me sooner. It's not your responsibility, isn't it?" The question hung between them, loaded with implications neither was ready to address. So Young's eyes searched his face. "Why did you really come?" Jinwoo struggled for an answer that wouldn't reveal too much. "Because the thought of losing you terrified me. Because you've become the best part of my days. Because somewhere along the way you stopped being just an employee. Because you matter," he said finally. The simple honesty of it seemed to surprise them both. So Young's hand moved instinctively toward his, then stopped, hovering in the space between them. "Mr. Park." "Jinwoo," he corrected softly. "Just Jinwoo." When her fingers finally touched his, something fundamental shifted. The walls he'd built so carefully began to crumble, and for the first time in years, Jinwoo didn't try to stop them. Outside, Seoul's lights twinkled like distant stars, witnessing the moment a billionaire remembered how to be human. So Young returned to work against doctor's orders, though Jinwoo had arranged for a more comfortable workspace and reduced hours. She moved carefully through the office, her presence a constant reminder of how much his world had changed. "The new hires are settling in well," she reported during their morning meeting, though Jinwoo found himself more focused on the way sunlight caught in her hair than the quarterly projections. "Good," he managed, then cleared his throat. "How are you feeling?" "Better. Thank you for the flowers, by the way. They weren't necessary." Jinwoo had sent an entire garden's worth to her apartment, then spent 20 minutes second-guessing the gesture. "I wanted to." The admission hung between them, heavy with unspoken meaning. So Young's cheeks flushed pink, and she looked down at her hands. "Jinwoo," she began hesitantly, using his first name for the first time since the hospital. "People are starting to talk." He knew. The whispers had started the moment he'd rearranged his schedule around her doctor's appointments, the speculation growing when he'd personally overseen her workspace modifications. Let them talk. It's not that simple. "I'm pregnant, unmarried, and now I'm suddenly your right hand. People are drawing conclusions." What kind of conclusions? Though he knew exactly what she meant. So Young met his eyes directly. "That I'm using my condition to manipulate you. That there's something inappropriate happening between us." The accusation stung because part of it was true. Not the manipulation. So Young was incapable of such calculation. But the inappropriate feelings were definitely present, at least on his side. "Does it matter what they think?" "It matters to me," she said quietly, "and it should matter to you, your reputation." "My reputation is built on fear, not respect. Maybe it's time for that to change." But even as he said it, Jinwoo wondered if he was being naive, if So Young's gentle influence was making him weak in a world that devoured weakness. The board meeting was a bloodbath waiting to happen. Jinwoo could feel the tension the moment he entered the conference room, where Meridian's major shareholders sat like vultures circling wounded prey. "Jinwoo," Chairman Kim's voice carried decades of authority, "we need to discuss your recent decisions." "Which decisions specifically?" "Firing 73 employees without board approval. Promoting an unqualified pregnant woman to a senior position. The rumors about your personal involvement with said employee." Jinwoo's jaw tightened. "So Young Lee is the most qualified person I've worked with. She uncovered the embezzlement that could have bankrupted us." "That's not the point," another board member interjected. "The optics are terrible. A pregnant, unmarried woman suddenly elevated to your inner circle. It looks like either charity or scandal, neither of which inspires investor confidence." Chairman Kim added coldly, "My personal life is not board business. Everything you do affects this company's value." Your father understood that. The mention of his father was a calculated blow. Jinwoo felt the familiar rage building, the same fury that had driven him to build this empire in the first place. "My father also trusted the wrong people. Look how that ended. So you'll destroy everything he built because of some misguided attachment to a pregnant employee?" The question hit its mark. Jinwoo thought of So Young's gentle smile, her unwavering integrity, the way she made him want to be better than his worst instincts. "The meeting is over," he said, standing abruptly. But as he walked out, Chairman Kim's parting words followed him. "Choose carefully, Jinwoo. Some mistakes can't be undone." The threat was clear. Him or her, his empire or his heart. For the first time in his life, Jinwoo wasn't sure which he valued more. So Young sensed the change immediately. Jinwoo's warmth from recent weeks had been replaced by a cold professionalism that felt like winter settling over her heart. "The Patterson merger requires your immediate attention," she reported, placing files on his desk while maintaining careful distance. "Handle it yourself," he replied without looking up. "You have full authority." The dismissal stung more than it should have. "Is everything all right?" "Everything's fine. I'm simply delegating more responsibility." But nothing was fine. So Young could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his jaw clenched when he thought she wasn't looking. Something had happened, something that had rebuilt the walls she'd watched him slowly dismantle. "Jinwoo," she said softly, using his name despite his renewed formality. "Mr. Park," he corrected sharply, finally meeting her eyes, "we should maintain professional boundaries." The words hit like a slap. So Young felt tears threaten, but refused to let them fall. "Of course. My apologies." And as she turned to leave, her baby chose that moment to kick forcefully, causing her to gasp and steady herself against the doorframe. Jinwoo was beside her instantly, his mask slipping. "Are you hurt?" "I'm fine," she whispered, though they both knew she wasn't. Not physically, but emotionally, she felt like she was drowning. His hand hovered near her arm, wanting to comfort, but not daring to touch. "So Young." "Don't," she said quietly. "Whatever's changed, whatever someone said to you, just don't make it harder than it has to be." She left him standing there, and Jinwoo felt something precious slip through his fingers like sand. He told himself it was for the best, that protecting his company meant protecting her too. But as he watched her walk away, he wondered if he was saving his empire only to lose his soul. The contractions started during the quarterly presentation. So Young gripped the conference table edge, trying to breathe through the pain while maintaining her professional composure. "The third quarter projections show..." She paused, another wave hitting harder than before. "Ms. Lee," one of the executives looked concerned. "Are you all right?" Jinwoo's eyes snapped to her face, immediately recognizing the signs. "Call an ambulance," he ordered, abandoning the presentation to reach her side. "I'm fine," So Young protested weakly, but her water had broken and there was no hiding the situation anymore. "You're not fine," Jinwoo said firmly, supporting her weight as she doubled over. "The baby's coming." The ambulance ride felt eternal. So Young gripped Jinwoo's hand with surprising strength, her carefully maintained composure finally cracking. "I'm scared," she whispered between contractions. "I know, but you're the strongest person I've ever met. You can do this. See, what if something goes wrong? What if I can't?" "Hey!" Jinwoo's voice was gentler than she'd heard in weeks. "Look at me. Nothing's going wrong. You're going to be fine, and your baby is going to be perfect." At the hospital, chaos erupted. Nurses rushed So Young into delivery while Jinwoo found himself relegated to the waiting room, pacing like a caged animal. Hours passed. Jinwoo called his assistant to cancel everything, ignored 17 urgent messages from the board, and realized that nothing, not his company, not his reputation, not his carefully constructed life, mattered as much as the woman fighting to bring life into the world just beyond those doors. When the doctor finally emerged, Jinwoo's heart stopped. "Congratulations," the doctor smiled. "You have a healthy baby girl, and Ms. Lee is doing wonderfully." The relief nearly brought him to his knees. But the doctor's assumption that he was the father reminded him of the impossible situation they faced. The baby was perfect. Jinwoo stood at the nursery window, watching the tiny girl sleep peacefully in her bassinet. She had So Young's delicate features and an expression of serene contentment that made his chest tight with unexpected emotion. "She's beautiful," he whispered, when So Young was finally awake enough for visitors. "Thank you for staying," So Young said, exhaustion evident in her voice, but her eyes bright with new mother's joy. "You didn't have to." "I wanted to." The truth of it surprised him. "Have you chosen a name?" "Minji. It means bright wisdom." "Perfect." Jinwoo found himself reaching toward the baby's tiny hand, then stopping. "May I?" So Young nodded, and when Minji's impossibly small fingers wrapped around his, something fundamental shifted in Jinwoo's world. This wasn't about business or reputation or board approval. This was about family, something he'd forgotten he wanted. Jinwoo. So Young's voice was hesitant. "I know things have been complicated lately. The board, the rumors. I understand if you need distance. What if I don't want distance?" The question hung between them, loaded with possibility and danger. "What are you saying?" Jinwoo looked from the baby to So Young, seeing his future clearly for the first time. "I'm saying that I've spent my entire adult life building walls to protect myself from betrayal, but you make me want to tear them down. The board will never accept it. Your company can survive without me if necessary, but I don't think I can survive without you, either of you." So Young's eyes filled with tears. "You don't know what you're asking. A single mother, a baby, the scandal." "I know exactly what I'm asking." Jinwoo's voice was steady, certain. "I'm asking for a chance to be the man you make me want to be." The board's emergency meeting was called for the day after So Young's discharge from the hospital. Jinwoo arrived to find the conference room filled with grim faces and legal documents. "Sit down, Jinwoo," Chairman Kim commanded. "We have a proposition." "I'm listening." "Step away from the Lee woman and her child, publicly. Make it clear this was a professional relationship that's now concluded. Do this, and we'll overlook your recent lapses in judgment." Jinwoo's blood ran cold. "And if I refuse? Then we'll call for a vote of no confidence. Your shares aren't enough to override the board's decision if we unite against you." The threat was real. Jinwoo had built Meridian, but he didn't own it outright. The board could remove him, strip him of everything he'd worked for. You'd destroy the company to spite me? We'd save it from your poor judgment, another member interjected. This infatuation is clouding your business sense. Infatuation? Jinwoo's voice was dangerously quiet. What else would you call it? A pregnant employee catches your attention, and suddenly you're playing house. It's embarrassing. Jinwoo thought of So Young's integrity, her gentle strength, the way she'd made him remember what it felt like to trust someone completely. You have 24 hours to decide, Chairman Kim announced, your company or your whatever this is. As the board filed out, Jinwoo remained seated, staring at the city skyline that had once represented everything he wanted. Now it felt like a prison. His phone buzzed with a text from So Young. Minji and I are home safe. Thank you for everything. Attached was a photo of the baby, sleeping peacefully. Jinwoo stared at it for a long time, realizing that somewhere along the way, his definition of everything had completely changed. The choice should have been simple, but as he looked at that tiny face, Jinwoo knew it was the hardest decision he'd ever have to make. Jinwoo stood outside So Young's modest apartment building, holding a resignation letter that felt like signing his own death warrant. Everything he'd built, everything he'd sacrificed for, reduced to a single sheet of paper. So Young answered the door with Minji in her arms, surprise evident on her tired face. Jinwoo, what are you doing here? I need to tell you something. She stepped aside to let him in, and Jinwoo was struck by the warmth of her small space. Soft lighting, baby clothes drying on a rack, the scent of jasmine tea. It felt more like home than his penthouse ever had. The board gave me an ultimatum, he said without preamble. Choose the company or choose you. So Young's face went pale. Oh, I've made my decision. She sat down heavily, still holding the baby. You're choosing the company, I understand. It's what you've worked for your entire life. No, Jinwoo said quietly, I'm choosing you. So Young's eyes widened. What? I'm resigning from Meridian, effective immediately. He held up the letter. I've also liquidated my personal assets. There's enough to ensure you and Minji are financially secure, no matter what happens. Jinwoo, no. You can't throw away everything for us. I'm not throwing it away. I'm choosing what matters. He knelt beside her chair, looking directly into her eyes. I love you, So Young. I love your integrity, your strength, the way you make me want to be better. And I already love Minji like she's my own daughter. Tears streamed down So Young's face. But your company will survive without me, but I won't survive without you. Not anymore. What are you asking? Jinwoo took a shaky breath. I'm asking if you'll let me be part of your family. Not as your boss or some powerful CEO, just as Jinwoo, a man who wants to love you and raise Minji and build something real. So Young looked down at her daughter, then back at Jinwoo. Are you sure? Really sure? I've never been more certain of anything in my life. When she nodded, Jinwoo felt like he could breathe for the first time in years. 6 months later, Jinwoo pushed Minji's stroller through the park, while So Young walked beside them, her hand warm in his. The simple domesticity of it still amazed him. How much joy could be found in such ordinary moments? She's getting so big, So Young marveled, watching their daughter reach for falling leaves. She has your determination, Jinwoo observed. Look how focused she is. They'd married quietly 3 months ago, a small ceremony with just a few close friends. Jinwoo had started a consulting firm, using his business expertise to help small companies grow ethically. The work was challenging in different ways, but infinitely more rewarding. Any regrets? So Young asked, the question she posed every few weeks. Only that it took me so long to realize what really mattered, Jinwoo replied, the same answer he always gave because it was always true. His phone buzzed with a news alert. Meridian Corporation stock plummets amid leadership scandal. Chairman Kim had been arrested for embezzlement, the same crime he'd accused Jin-woo of ignoring. "Karma," So-young said simply, reading over his shoulder. Jin-woo deleted the alert without reading further. That life felt like it belonged to someone else now. Min-ji babbled happily from her stroller, reaching toward her father with chubby hands. Jin-woo lifted her up, marveling at how perfectly she fit in his arms. "What do you think, Min-ji?" he asked the baby. "Should we go home and make dinner for your mother?" So-young laughed, the sound like music. "She's 6 months old, Jin-woo. She can't answer you." "She doesn't need to," he replied, kissing the top of Min-ji's head. "I already know what she'd say." As they walked home together, a real family built on love rather than obligation, Jin-woo realized he'd finally found what he'd been searching for his entire life. Not power or wealth or revenge, but something infinitely more precious, a place where he belonged.